Hello everyone, and welcome to this video on how to play Cosmere Versus. For a little bit of context, I'm not in any way actually affiliated with Brandon or Dragonsteel, but if anyone that is sees this, feel free to get in touch. I'd be more than happy to work with you guys. This is just a fan-made project at the moment, and it is a head-to-head card game for 2 players that is extremely competitive, and I've got a few players who are doing sort of a mini round robin tournament that we're going to be putting footage out of soon, so I figured it's the best time to give a how to play. So that's what we're doing today. As I mentioned, Cosmere Versus is a head-to-head competitive card game. Each player picks a team of 5 different characters from the Cosmere universe. At the moment there is characters from both Stormlight and Mistborn, however other Cosmere characters can easily come into this once I read more of the books. So right now we've got 35 characters, 7 for each of the 5 different classes. And in a game you have to pick one of each class: leader, tank, support, damage and wildcard. You have to have exactly one of each to go into your team. And of course they all fill different functions within that team. The leaders are good for summoning minions. They each have a pile of minion tokens that they can put into play that do different things, like buff their attacks or make your enemies weaker, or all sorts of different things amongst the leaders that operate with minions. The tanks are great at soaking up damage for your team. They can either defend other people through stuff like shields or items that they can summon, or they can just defend the team by being threatening enough that your opponent has to deal with them instead. Supports, everybody gets a healer on their team, and that's mainly what the support's job is, but they'll have some other tools to help you along the way. Damage is fairly obvious, they're about killing things, and the wildcards are much harder to categorize. Because they all do their own unique thing, and lots of them have big text boxes for this reason, because they're kind of just funky. They do different things that nobody else in the game can do. And there's a couple of ways that you can select your teams at the start of the game. If it's your first game, I recommend you to just pick the characters that you want to play with. Just make sure that you get one from each class. If you are familiar with the game, then picks and bans is the competitive way to do it, where alternating players get chance to ban and then pick characters through this listed order here, and that provides a very competitive environment where you can really strategize around what characters are good against specific other characters, and banning away things against specific opponents as well if you know the players, as well as combinations of cards that work together and stuff like that. It's kind of like the apex of what the Cosmere Versus experience can be. So this is an example of what a team could look like. Here I've got leader, Venli, Sadeas is my tank, Sazed is my support, Kelsier is my damage, and Navani is the wild card. And once you've assembled your team, you'll find a bunch of different cards under them of different types. The easiest way to just sort these out is by the card backs. The bottom 5 of every stack is going to be ability cards, and you can drag all of those out into a separate deck. On top of that, sometimes you will have some minion tokens, like the Stormforms of Venli's, so they just go over here in minions token spot. And you'll also have some unique tokens likely, which are these green things. You just put them over in the unique token spot. And then this is kind of a weird one, but that's just Navani. In fact, instead of Navani, let's grab Breeze, because Breeze has some of these effect tokens as well, which is another type of token that isn't a card, it's a type of token that is an actual token. So they go down there, these all get gathered together. You should have a 25 ability card deck, because each character has 3 different cards. They have 2 rares, which have yellow text like this, Traitorous Ways for Sadeas, and Dangerous Schemes, that's his other rare. There's a single copy of each of those. And then they have a common card with white text on the name that is one of 3 copies. So 5 cards in total, 4 each character, 3 different cards, 2 singles, and a triple for the Shard Bow, for example, on Sadeas. So these cards all get shuffled together to form your deck, and you would draw 3 cards at the start of a round. So once you're set up and you're ready to play, and your opponent's set up and ready to play with a team of their own, you'll notice that there's already something on the table here. There is a guard in the middle. Now, each round, each player starts with a guard. In the second round, they actually start with 2 guards, and in the third round, you start with 3 guards if you get to the third round. The game is played over the best of 3 rounds, with a round being won when you kill one of the enemy characters. Of course, it's gonna take you a while before you actually manage to kill a character, because these guards are in the way and they can jump in front of attacks to save your characters a lot of damage. So your first order of business really in a round is to take out the guard before you can start looking at killing a character. And of course in round 2 and 3 that will be 2 and 3 guards, not just the 1. Let's take a look at the actual characters so I can explain what all these different boxes and symbols are here. We'll look at Kelsier. So the top left icon is the damage icon, so that's just his class. All the damage have the same. You can also tell the class by the border colour of the frame on the back of the card there, red being damage. The top right icon is Kelsier's icon, so all of his cards will have that icon on them. For example, you can see Sadeas' icon there is the same as on this Dangerous Schemes to the left of the name box. So that's one way to tell if the cards are matching, aside from just the art, which shout out everyone on the internet who I recklessly stole art from. Moving on. We have the HP box under that right hand side, which is the amount of hits they can take before they die. And then the red box is their attack value and type, either melee or ranged. So melee can only hit people in the same zone as them. With the zones being each player's reserve area is this bar at the back, and then the middle zone is one big active area that is referred to as in play. So melee can only hit people in the same zone as them, but range can hit up to 1 zone away. So from the back line, Kelsier could shoot something in the middle, or if he was up front, he could shoot to my opponent's back line as well. The other things on this card to explain are the activation ability and the kill skill. The activation ability is something that happens when you move a character from your reserve to play. Now, you always have 1 character in play, and at the start of a round, depending on who the first player is, that person says who they are going to begin with in play. After that, the active character only changes when you decide to activate a character, which is something you can do on your turn. If you then decide to activate Kelsier, for example, you can move him up here, move the other character back into your bench, and then you get to do their activation ability. In this case, Kelsier makes an attack dealing 4 damage, which could get aimed right at this guard and take him out in 1 hit, giving me a kill. At that point, you get to trigger your kill skill. Kelsier's, in this case, would pick up an ability of his from the discard pile, but there isn't any in there, so we're going to skip that for the moment. The second part after getting a kill is that you get to draw a card when you kill a minion, and that's going to help you to further facilitate an attack on your enemy's characters. The only other information that you will sometimes find on a character is the green heal box, and that's always going to be on the support characters. They're the only ones who have heals, and that green heal, it has a value exactly the same as attack for both melee and or ranged. Depending on how far you're away, you can use it, and you can just remove damage from people by doing a heal on your turn, the same as you can just make an attack on your turn. And I should probably cover that. So there are 4 things you can do on your turn. One of them is just to make an attack. You choose a character, they hit someone that's a legal target for them, put the damage on them. Simple. The second is to make a heal. You can only heal with your support, as I just mentioned, and they have to be in range of the character you're trying to heal. In this case, melee means that CZ would only be able to heal people on the bench at the moment. The third thing you can do, which you'll be doing a lot of, is to activate a character, like I just showed you with Kelsier. Sadeas, on the other hand, when he activates, creates one of these Bridge Team unique tokens, which then stays in play kind of like a mini guard to soak up an attack for me. There's all sorts of different activation effects, and that's one of the actions you can do, activate a character. The fourth thing you can do is to play a card from your hand, and each of these cards has a different zone that you have to be in order to play it. For example, Dangerous Schemes here says that Sadeas has to be active to play this card, and thankfully he is. I just moved him up here, not that I'm playing against anyone, but while he's up here, that is the correct zone for him to be able to play Dangerous Schemes. He can make an attack, dealing some extra damage for each card that my opponent's played or discarded over the course of the round. That could be really handy to try and set up a kill on an enemy character. Shardbow, for example, could be used from any position. That means he can use it whether he's active or in the reserve. And the reason for this is because Sadeas is a ranged attacker, so there's nothing stop him from attacking even when he's not the active character, as long as he can see something to hit, aka the active character if no one else, because there's always going to be an enemy character up here. And those are the 4 types of actions. That's really it when it comes to what you can do on your turn. You do one thing and then play passes to your opponent and they do a thing, and it goes back and forth very quickly like that. And that's basically all there is to it. To play a game of Cosmere Versus, you'll be activating your characters, making attacks, trying to wipe out your opponent's minions to draw cards, and eventually build enough of an advantage that you can fully take out an enemy character. At that point the round ends, everything resets, you shuffle all your cards back into the deck, remove all your tokens, etc. Get 2 guards on the second round, 3 on the third if it goes that far, and play again. A couple of other minor details to mention is that if you destroy a unique token of your enemies, that does not count as a kill, so you don't get to trigger your kill skill of the character that killed it, or draw a card. That only happens when you kill a minion. You can tell most easily just by the colour here. Those greener cards are the uniques, and the browner ones are the minions. These effects tokens can also come into play. Breeze, for example, can put Soothed on enemy characters, meaning that you can remove the Soothed at a later date to stop that character from making an attack. There are other types as well, like this Coward, which isn't removed but stays in play, and while the Coward's on them, it means they can't attack people with more HP than them. All of the explanations of what effect tokens do are found on the card that creates them, whether that is a actual character card itself, or a card from your hand and deck that you have to draw and then play. And one final detail to add is that these shields are tokens that a lot of things can make, and they get put on allied characters or minions. And whenever something with a shield gets attacked, you remove the shield and it prevents 1 of the damage from happening. If you've got 5 shields, that'll prevent the next 5 damage to the character. And that's all there is to it for Cosmere Versus. It's quite easy to get into a game and learn how to play. However, there is a depth of insane strategy and counters and who's good against who and who works well together, and all these different combinatorial elements that come when you have 35 characters and combinations of teams of 5 from them 35. There's a lot of different games. Basically, you never play the same game twice because you always end up like you're never going to have the exact same team against the exact same team, if you get me. So, yeah, if you have any questions, if anything was unclear, which is likely because I didn't plan any of this and sort of just rambled, let me know the questions in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. Right now, this is just played by a few people in my Third Age playtest server. If you're not familiar, I've also designed a board game based on the Wheel of Time called Third Age. You can play that now on the Steam Workshop, but also I have a Discord group with lots of people that like to play my games. And we've been playtesting the Cosmere Versus game through that server. If you'd like to join, there's a link to the Third Age Discord server in the description. Don't forget to also spank that like button for RJ, because you know he wants you to. and hit the subscribe button so you see more future content from the channel. In the next day or two, there should be a full match of Cosmere versus come out, which will hopefully help to make things a bit clearer if you've just watched this video and still think you have no clue what's going on. That's all from me this time, folks. Thank you for tuning in and watching this far. It's been a pleasure. Tai'Shar.